next song on the record is Jonesin, which started in Alabama. That song me and you have been trying to figure out for 2 years.
We were excited about the idea of it for a long time. That idea was born in the garage.
Yeah. Just in conversation.
Same night that Last Country Song was born. One that didn't make the record, but
It didn't make the record. It'll have a life one of these days. That's a cool song. Yeah, but I was jonesing for a cigarette. Hadn't had one in a long time. And I was really wanting a cigarette, and we were talking about it, and I was jonesing. But when we wrote that song, that was a real rough night for me. I'd been listening to a lot of Mac Miller, which also took me even further down. But it ain't 2009 no more. 2009 was that song really. You turned me on to Mac Miller. You and Mackie. Yeah, Mackie.
yeah,
You guys have been listening to Mac Miller and we're talking about it at the studio.
Dang.
And so I jumped into some Mac. The first song I heard was 2009. 2009 was probably my worst year. This year I went to jail. I was at my lowest. So I immediately connected with him. And Jonesin, I think that night we listened to The Weekend by Mac and Miguel, I believe.
Okay, yeah,
We listened
sounds
to that
right.
song because I was like, I want to create something with a lot of tension that kind of opens up. And that was with Tyndall and
Tyndall started playing that guitar part,
yeah,
and I think he did that before we talked about Jonesin. I think he was just noodling, and we were like, I think Jonesin could be really perfect.
It was a lick off of a song that he had started with somebody else, and he literally texted him and asked him if it was cool if we could use the lick because it inspired that song. And then Tyndall was like, "This stray is praying for some hair of the dog," and I was like, "Damn, that's a cool line." I'm always about that too. It's like those first lines that pull you in.
Yeah,
That one really did it for me.
yeah,
Too early in the a.m. to take him for a walk.
yeah.
I was living that life at the moment. That night was a rough night. I went too far. I knew too much. You guys went to bed, and I had a hard time on the couch by myself. Thought about waking you guys up at one point to take me to the. I thought about waking you guys up to take me to the hospital because I thought I was going to die. Honestly,
Wow.
that was a rough night. And then the next day, I remember that song was just in me, man. And I was going for runs on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
I went for a run on the beach, and Jenna had showed up, right? Jenna McClellan.
Yeah, that's right.
She came to sing on a few of the songs that we had already written that next day after Tyndall, because Tyndall and Spillman left. And she was singing her ass off as usual. I went for a run, and when I got back, I was just really frustrated with myself and with some other stuff that had gone on during the write. And got up to the mic, and I feel like I sang that song. That's the realest vocal and the hardest I've ever sang. I feel like I put more of my soul into that song than any song I've ever sang. We talked about not using that vocal,
Yeah, we did.
but there was no way.
Yeah,
Because even if it wasn't the best vocal, like we probably
was
could have
real.
went in and made that vocal like a better performance, but
the emotion was there.
Yeah, the emotion was there. I was so out of breath. I remember. I think you can hear me breathing at the end of the mix.
Yeah.
'Cause I dug my toes in for that one. That song is super important to me. By the way, we're doing it halftime live now, and it's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I don't feel like live should always be the same as the record. That's a whole different thing for me, you know? And if I'm having to do live like I'm doing the record, then that would mean I would maybe have to run some tracks here and there, and I'm kind of a purist in that sense where I don't want to do that. I feel like people, we grow up learning how to play guitar and play these instruments and put so much time into it that, I mean, just for me personally, I feel like you should just let people play, you know? So I've enjoyed working up this new set with these songs and like figuring out how the band plays them versus how we recorded them, but obviously keeping the life of the recordings. But come out to a show sometime, you'll get to see it. I'm just playing. I know you're busy, baby. So when we're cutting vocals in particular, you don't really work me to death. Like I've worked with people in the past that just want me to go in there and sing 100 times.
You just have to do so many takes, and then we'll comp it,
Yeah.
and we'll get it. Yeah, I feel like, the more we work together, the more we know what the end goal is, and you really just start going for it. And a lot of the time, we end up getting keeper vocals even while the band is tracking. And it doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes there's bleed from the other instruments in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a few pitch things or phrasing or whatever. And it's not perfect, but you feel it. You really feel it. I mean, I remember you did the vocal for Does Heaven Have a Creek? And I think we ended up keeping one of the tracking. Or I wanted to. Maybe we fought about that.
No, it's in there. So what happened was we... at the very end, we only comped one part, and it was that very last. But the bleed was coming through the bass track or something.
There was some crosstalk
from the one before that. So there's like this big note at the end where, if you listen, it sounds like a guitar part, but it's actually from the take right before that, where my vocal just is bleeding through one of the lines. Dan and Kenzie, your daughter, were here when I sang that, which was really cool because I bought everybody this book before we started tracking to finish the record. This is Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, and I had read it a few weeks before, and he talks about in here sometimes he would have an audience come in, like 1 or 50 people. It doesn't matter, but you get a different performance out of the singer or the band just based on if there's somebody there witnessing it.
Interesting.
So when you guys showed up, it was cool because it was very, it was unprovoked, that I would have an audience that day. And that song, really meant a lot to me. And there's a lot of honesty and soul in that song. So I got to exercise a little bit of this stuff from Rick Rubin and had you guys read it before because I really thought there was some great stuff in there, and his approach is very much like yours, I believe. You're just looking for real moments, and that's what I've appreciated about you since the beginning.
Magic.
Yeah, I still believe in the magic, and I know you do too.
But going back to the vocals, I think, and not just vocals. I mean, full band takes. When you feel the magic, like when you're like, that's the take. Even if it could be better, you've already got that in your head, and so you're just going to be trying to beat that. And that's what happens with demos too. You write a song, you make a demo, and there's magic in it, and you just fall in love with it. And it can be so hard to recreate things.
People call it demo-itis or whatever, but I've always hated that term because I don't really feel like we make demos, though. I feel like we go into it with intention when we're in here making music as we're writing the songs. It's not like you're not just track guying over there, no offense to track guys, but you're actually trying to create something that's going to live out in the world when we're doing all this. And so I feel like if the magic is there, who gives a shit if it's a demo or if it's played by Tom, Dick, or Harry, or some of the greatest players in the world at one of the greatest studios in the world. It doesn't matter to me as long as it makes you feel something.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson I've had to learn too. I mean, from working on songs that I'm not a part of writing in the demo, sometimes I have this resistance against stuff from demos, and it's definitely been a hard lesson to learn, to just let go and just accept things that were there from the start for a reason,
Dan, I feel like with you in particular, like you bring awesome energy to the room. You've always been a positive force, I feel like, in anybody's life that you're around. But when it comes to writing songs, you say the most amazing stuff without overcomplicating the world. What I've loved having you around for is like keeping me from going crazy trying to like create this thing that you have to freaking decipher all the time.
Yeah.
My brain's everywhere, and you're able to like take those ideas and put them in to this idea that's just easy to digest. So
Appreciate that. It's easier too because I know as soon as a line comes out of my mouth, I can look at you and know whether or not that's you either like it or you don't. You're either going to say it or you won't. And even times when I've tried to convince you, no, You should. You just give me that look like I'm gonna sing it like
Sorry.
I'm not gonna. I'm not singing that line. I don't care. It's a good line, but I'm not gonna sing it.
Yeah, there are times when it's like I know I hear something and I know the line's good, but it's like
Yeah.
would I just say that in normal conversation? I don't
Right.
feel like I would. So I feel like that's really important to me, is just like making sure that it's something that would actually come out of my mouth.
Absolutely, and you can hear that in all of your songs. You don't say stuff that you wouldn't say.
One of my favorite memories with you happened at a cabin in Kentucky.
Yeah,
My father-in-law's cabin.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just picking on you about this earlier. So, the only time I've ever seen Dan Couch mad, I think I'd just seen you, I played that thing in Murfreesboro, the Bluebird thing.
Yeah.
And you came to watch me. And then we were out there writing at the cabin. But the first time I showed up to write with you, I almost didn't bring a guitar.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to write with this guy. I just want to show him that I can write songs, and I'm just going to show up with a pen and paper today. Well, I get there, and you didn't have a guitar. And I was like, and then every time I wrote with you after that, you didn't have a guitar. So I was always like, damn, I'm glad I took a guitar that day. So we're at the cabin that my father-in-law has over in Eastern Kentucky, and I innocently asked you, hey, man.
Well, you said, I said, yeah, it was good seeing you over there. I said, I played that thing the last night. I played the Bluebird and the Burro the last night.
Uh-huh.
You were on night 2, I think.
Yeah.
And
I
you
was
said,
like-
and I said,
so when you go play writers rounds, do you have somebody
who plays guitar?
who plays guitar for you? He looks up at me and goes, fuck you. And I was like, oh, dang. Sorry, man. He grabs a guitar and immediately goes into something about a truck. So I'm like, all right, touche, my bad. But no, man, there's been so much born from having you in the room with us, and I feel like you've been there you've been a compass to getting things going in the direction that they need to go in.
I think if I had everything that